going to read you some of these lovely books I have here. And here, I know as you see, I am holding a doll, and her name is Sophie. It says, I love you. So when they come with the book, and they're available, and I have permission from the author, illustrator, and publisher to read these fine books and true stories. My first book is Sophie, and we will read all about Sophie, okay? These are great images in here, and I will also be reading from the author. The author's name, of course, is Cathy Gibson, and the illustrations are by Robert Norica. I hope I pronounced both your names correctly. The phenomenal reading and illustrations. I love them. And don't forget, this comes with the books. And so in the other ones I'll be reading is from author Rose Petruzzi. She wrote and illustrated and publicized all her books. But today, right now, I'm reading Sophie through Sophie's eyes. And you can see, we're getting a great picture over there. And you can see she's holding her fingers up like this. So you must know that sign language. I don't know what that means, but I believe I've seen this. It means I love you, as this says. It says Sophie through Sophie's eyes. And inside the book, it says for A, it's like this, and B. And so if you were ever able to obtain this book, you'll see the different symbols for your hand of what each letter means. I never did. I always wanted to learn sign language. You know, perhaps you do too. There's a lot of courses and classes. Okay, the story, Sophie, through Sophie's eyes. It says, a special thank you to her family for their love and encouragement throughout the process of writing and publishing this book. And it says, we started a foundation called For Children with Love, which proceeds from each book will be donated to various causes for children. Isn't that wonderful? For more information, contact us at www.forchildrenwithlove.com. That's forchildrenwithlove.com. Wow. As you see, the great illustrations here are just phenomenal, and the reading, of course, too. And let's hear the story. In a small town, not too far from here, lived a girl named Sophie. She was like most other girls her age, except she could not hear or speak. Sophie was deaf. To communicate, she would read people's lips and speak with her hands using sign language. Sophie loved to draw pictures, read fairy tales, but most of all, she loved to dance. Well, she's my kind of girl because I love to dance too. One of Sophie's favorite things to do was to watch people dance on television. Have you done that too? She would love for old movies that had dancing in them and pretend she was one of the dancers. What's that show called? Excuse me. Dancing with Celebrities? I don't know. Once Sophie went to a beautiful wedding and was fascinated by all the people spinning and twirling on the dance floor. She watched as the ladies were spun around in her pretty dresses and high-heeled shoes. She was in awe with her gentle and graceful manner. While everyone was dancing, Sophie found herself feeling the vibrations of the music coming through the dance floor. She too was swaying and dancing just like the other guests. I don't know if you can see her. She's right over here, and there's that little ball that twirls around, and what's it called? Disco ball. She looks beautiful. And Sophie's mom also loved to dance. The two of them would dance together for hours. They would move the furniture around and turn the living room into a dance area. One day, Sophie's mom decided to surprise Sophie with a little dance area in her bedroom. While Sophie was at school, her mom had long mirrors and a wooden ballet bar put in her room. It looked like a real dance studio. Well, isn't that exciting? When Sophie came home that day, she was so surprised. She never could have imagined having her own dance studio. The only thing that was missing were other dancers to dance with. This is true. It is a lot more fun to dance with others. Here she is at school. The next day, Sophie went to school with a big smile on her face. She still couldn't believe she had her very own dance area. As she sat at her desk, the teacher passed out a flyer to the class. The flyer was from the local dance studio. They were offering dance lessons to the students at her school. Sophie was so excited. She couldn't wait to share the news with her mom. Wow. While on the bus, traveling home, Sophie started daydreaming about taking dance lessons at the dance studio. When the bus stopped in front of Sophie's house, she leaped off the bus and went running inside. She ran right to her mom and handed her the flyer. Sophie quickly signed, "Can I take dance lessons? Can I?" At first, her mom was worried and signed. The girls that take dance lessons can hear the music. They can listen for the teacher's instructions. It might be too hard for you. Sophie signed back, "Mom, I could watch the teacher and follow. I don't need to hear the music. I can feel it." Her mom smiled and signed back, "Okay, we can try it." Sophie jumped up and down, signed to her mom, "Thank you, thank you." And on the side of the book, it has let's try it, for T, and then H, and A, and let's see if I can get this right. I don't want to mess up. N, and K for thank, and then U is the Y, O, and U. Whoop, U. So I hope I did that for all you who know how to sign. This is my first time. I'm very sorry. But that was thank you. That feels great. Isn't that great? So she can feel the music in her feet on the floor, so she can dance. The next day after school, Sophie's mom took her to the dance studio. As Sophie entered, she stopped and looked all around the room. The dance room was just as she imagined. It was a large room with floor-to-ceiling mirrors and a wooden ballet bar that went down the entire side of the wall. The dance teacher went over to greet them. As you can see, Sophie is here, and her mom and the teacher. Sophie signed, and when she says sign, that means she's using her fingers to talk. "Hello, my name is Sophie. I am excited to take dance lessons." The teacher signed back. Isn't that great? The teacher can talk back to her in sign language. "Hello, Sophie. My name is Miss Helen. I am glad you are excited to take dance lessons. We will have lots of fun." Sophie and her mom were happily surprised that Miss Helen knew sign language. Isn't that great when you can talk to another person and for them and as well as you? It was time for the dance lesson to begin. Miss Helen brought Sophie to the center of the room and introduced her to the class. Sophie signed to the girls. "Hello, my name is Sophie." The girls looked puzzled as Sophie used sign language to greet them. When the class started, Miss Helen signed to Sophie to line up with the other girls at the ballet bar. While the girls were in line, they whispered to one another, covering their mouths so Sophie couldn't read their lips. Sophie knew they were whispering about her. She tried to be brave, but tears began to slowly roll down her cheeks. It's so sad for Sophie. Miss Helen noticed Sophie was upset. She signed to Sophie, "Are you okay? Do you want to stop for the day?" Sophie dried her tears and signed back to Miss Helen, "I will be okay. I want to dance." It's very brave of her, isn't it? And that's too bad for those girls who, just because you're different, doesn't mean there's anything wrong. Get to know that person, so you can learn a new language by signing. Even myself, I would love to. Miss Helen noticed the girls were not being that nice to Sophie. When class ended for the day, Sophie quickly grabbed her stuff and left. Miss Helen asked the other girls to stay. She told the girls to start stretching and she would be right back. She went to her office and returned shortly with a bag of cotton. She had all the girls take a piece of cotton and put it in their ears. Miss Helen told the girls they would be dancing without music, like Sophie. You understand why? So they could understand what Sophie is going through. She can't hear what they're saying. And to hear all the things, the birds, the music, the sound, it's a different world. She went to her office and returned shortly with a bag of cotton. She had all the girls take a piece of cotton and put it in their ears. Miss Helen told the girls they would be dancing without music, like Sophie. When Sophie got home, her mom asked, oh, wait a minute. I just want to make sure I have every page. I missed one. Okay, although the other ladies, the girls trying to dance with cotton in their ears, they don't know how Sophie knows how. Miss Helen signaled the girls to line up in the center of the room. She told them they could not rely on their ears to listen for the music or instruction. They had to use their other senses and feel the rhythm of the movements. Miss Helen used her hand movements and body language to guide the girls. The girls began to stumble over one another as they tried to keep their eyes focused on Miss Helen. They were tired and out of breath as they tried to find the rhythm. They did not realize how difficult it was to dance without hearing the music. When Sophie got home, her mother asked, "How was dance class?" Sophie told her mom how the girls treated her, and she began to cry. She signed to her mom, "The girls think because I'm deaf, I can't dance." Her mom replied as she softly wiped away the tears from her face. "Oh, Sophie, you are a wonderful dancer. Don't worry about what the other girls think. Not being able to hear, is only a part of who you are. You have a special gift that allows you to use dancing as a way to express yourself. You should celebrate who you are." I do. I'm trying to get these pages. I don't want to mess up. So, okay. I love all this. Here's Sophie dancing in the rain. The next day, Sophie decided to walk to dance class. She knew she could show the girls that she was a good dancer. As she was walking, it started to rain. The rain was like music to Sophie. She looked up and smiled as the raindrops tiptoed on her face. Sophie leaped and splashed through the puddles all the way to dance class. That must be fun, huh? We were just thinking about that, dancing in the rain in the puddles. When Sophie arrived at the dance studio, she quickly changed from her wet shoes to her ballet slippers. While stretching for class, Sophie noticed that the other girls were smiling at her. And one of them even waved and motioned for her to stand next to her at the wooden bar. Miss Helen began the class, and everyone watched for her instructions. Sophie noticed that Miss Helen did not turn the music on. She also noticed that Miss Helen did not give any verbal instructions. She was only using her body movements and hand signals. It put a smile on Sophie's face when she realized that the girls were learning to dance through her eyes. They were seeing what it was like for her every day. Isn't that sweet? See, once you understand someone, you just don't laugh just because they're different from you. That's what makes us unique, being different, getting to know each other. As the weeks went by, the girls prepared for their solo performances. Sophie practiced and practiced. It was finally Sophie's day to do her solo performance. She thought to herself, I can do this. I love to dance. I am ready. Sophie was nervous, yet excited. She slowly walked to the center of the room and saw everyone's eyes on her. She got into her dance position, took a deep breath, and waited to feel the music. And then she danced and danced and danced. The girls watched in awe. They started whispering again, but this time they did not cover their mouths. They were all saying that Sophie was beautiful. She was graceful. She was a ballerina. At the end of Sophie's dance, she glanced over to the other dancers to see their reaction. She saw smiles on their faces as they clapped and cheered for her. Sophie could not have been happier. As she curtsied, the dancers ran to the center of the room to join her. They all formed a circle, holding each other's hands, and danced together. Everyone realized that you do not need to be able to hear the music to be a great dancer. Excuse me. The girls curtsied goodbye to Miss Helen, hugged each other, and left class with a great lesson learned. That night, as Sophie's mom tucked her into bed, Sophie told her mom how proud she felt about her performances and how she loved her dance class. The girls were so happy for me, Sophie signed. As her mom sat on the side of the bed, she brushed her hand through Sophie's hair and then signed, I'm so proud of you. I knew the girls would see your gift to dance. As her mom got up from the side of the bed, Sophie signed to her, I love you, which is, let me see, like this. I love you. Wasn't that a phenomenal book? I mean, even all the pages, and it talks about Cathy, and the illustrator's bio too. And there's even more, all the alphabet, the signs, the symbols. And I'm going to read another book, so a lot of her books are like that. So I got 10 minutes, so I'm going to read another book for you. Okay, so that was Sophie through Sophie's eyes. So the next book, I just have to take a sip of water because, excuse me, all that reading has left me dry. So the next book I'm going to read is still by author Catherine Gibson. Illustrator is Robert Noriga, and it's Sophie discovers synchronized swimming. So remember, I just read you the story where she was deaf. So now she's going to swim. So yes, you can do anything. And I would do all the sign, but like I said, I don't know how to sign, and I don't want to make a wrong sign and mean totally different. And so, as again, a portion of the proceeds from each book sold is donated to the For Children with Love Foundation, which supports local children's causes. Visit www.forchildrenwithlove.com. That's forchildrenwithlove.com. Okay, so Sophie is in her room and she's exercising. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon. Sophie had finished her homework, and began practicing ballet positions at the bar in her bedroom. Sophie loved ballet. She would twirl around for hours. While Sophie was stretching on the floor, she noticed the light on her computer blinking on and off. She walked over to the computer to see who had sent her a message. Because she's deaf, so she has to see things and type things on her computer. It was from her cousin, Gilly. It read, "Sophie, would you like to come to my swim meet tomorrow at 3 o'clock? Sophie replied, "I would love to see your swim meet. Let me ask my mom, and I will get back to you soon." And on the side, there's also, I don't know if you see that there's different sign. It says deaf and because and please. So there's a lot of instruction, educational things on the side here on how to learn how to talk somewhat to other people who are deaf, or if you're deaf. Sophie noticed the light on her bedroom wall blinking. Because Sophie was deaf, her mother would blink the lights as a signal to Sophie if they were not in the same room. This time it meant that it was time for dinner. Sophie skipped and pirouetted to the dinner table. Her mother signed to her. "What is all of the excitement?" Sophie signed back. "Gilly invited me to her swim meet tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Can I go? Can I please?" Signed Sophie. Her mom signed back. "It sounds like a lot of fun, and of course you can go." Sophie couldn't wait to send a message back to her cousin telling her that she could go to the pool and watch Gilly compete. The computer was Sophie's best way to communicate with others when they weren't together. Gilly knew some sign language, but not enough to understand everything Sophie said. The next day, Sophie and her mother arrived at the pool and sat with Gilly's mom. Sophie had taken lessons as a little girl and had become an excellent swimmer. She was very excited, not knowing what to expect at the competition. There were girls kicking on the side of the pool, some practicing dives and others swimming underwater. There were also girls forming circles in the pool, making movements like dancers in the water. They were all wearing matching blue bathing suits with white caps on their heads. "Mom, what are those girls doing?" signed Sophie. "I'm not sure," her mother signed, shrugging her shoulders. There were flags flying in the pool area, and there was enthusiasm all around. As the crowd clapped and cheered, Sophie watched, wide-eyed. Gilly walked out for her race. A flag came down for the race to begin. It was the freestyle. Gilly swam her hardest. Her hand was the first to touch the pool wall. She turned to look at Sophie. Sophie waved to Gilly, gave her a thumbs-up sign. "Good, good." Gilly gave her a thumbs up back, laughed and signed, "Thank you." Gilly's race was the last one of the competition. Next, a group of girls came out. They were also wearing matching bathing suits. They were not competing against each other in a race. They were performing together. Gilly quickly jumped into the pool to join them. Sophie signed to her mom, asking again, "What are they going to do?" Her mother shook her head and signed, "Let's watch and see." Sophie's mom asked Gilly's mother what the girls were going to do. Gilly's mother replied that they were synchronized swimmers who are like dancers in water. Sophie's mom signed to Sophie and fingers spelled, "Synchronized swimmers," with a twinkle in her eye. Sophie watched as they performed. The dancers' legs would come up out of the water, one leg at a time. They would separate into groups, forming different shapes in the water, their heads turning in the same direction at the same time. The girls looked like graceful swans. They were spinning and twirling in the water. It was hard to believe that they were not on a dance floor. They were doing something Sophie had never seen before in the water. Sophie quietly stood up, signed the word love with her arms and across her chest. She looked over at her mom and signed, beautiful. Traveling home, Sophie signed to her mother, Mom, I want to learn to dance in the water. Her mother signed back that a person not only needs to be a very strong swimmer, like Sophie had become, but it also takes a lot of time and training to learn how to synchronize swim. Her mother suggested that they ask Gilly if she would be willing to work with Sophie. The following day, they met Gilly at the pool. Gilly was very excited to know that Sophie wanted to become involved in synchronized swimming and told her she would be happy to help her. The girls began to meet at the pool each day. They spent hours practicing. Gilly showed Sophie how. By simply using tiny movements of her hands below the water, she could move into different positions more easily. Gilly would have her turn in a circle or go forward and backward, all without seeming to move any part of her body. They practiced floating into different positions, moving their legs and arms apart and together, making shapes and figures to the music like a kaleidoscope that is ever changing. Soon it was time to add the music. Gilly played it loudly. There were speakers underwater so that when the swimmers performed, they were able to hear the beat. To Sophie's amazement, she was able to feel the music vibrations. She was able to keep the movements the same as her cousins. Weeks went by and Sophie would go to the pool each day to practice. The other swimmers were also there practicing. On this particular day, Gilly asked the girls if Sophie could swim with them. She explained that Sophie was deaf, but that she was able to feel the vibrations in the water. She was a strong swimmer and she had been practicing their routine. The girls looked at each other, shook their heads, no, and walked away. They were afraid that because Sophie was deaf and could not hear the music, she would not be able to keep up with them and she would ruin their routine. Sophie looked at her cousin with tears in her eyes. She put her head down so the girls wouldn't see how sad she felt. Gilly reached for Sophie's hand and signed, sorry. Sophie signed back, thank you. And together they walked home, hand in hand. A month went by and the same girls were in a circle watching Sophie practice in the pool. One of the girls turned to the others and said, Sophie is a very good swimmer. Let's have her practice with us. Another said, no, she can't hear us. As the girls stood mumbling to one another, Gilly went over to them and firmly said, you are not being nice to Sophie. Say you're sorry. This is the sign to say you're sorry. Give her a chance. The girls looked at one another, feeling badly about how they treated her. One by one, the girls jumped into the pool. Sorry, sorry, sorry. They each signed to Sophie. Gilly tapped Sophie on the shoulder and signed, let's dance with the others in the water. Sophie's mom was sitting at the side of the pool. She slowly stood up and proudly watched Sophie jump into the water to perform the routine in the pool with the other swimmers. Gilly started the music and signed to Sophie, dance, dance, dance. And that Sophie did. Her legs came out of the water one at a time, kicking and spinning. Sophie was floating on her back as if someone was holding her. She turned her head from side to side in sync with the other swimmers. Her mother was standing, grinning from ear to ear as the crowd watched and cheered. Hey! At the end of the routine, the girls formed a circle, creating the look of a beautiful flower. As you can see right there, isn't that beautiful? In the middle, with a special place for only one swimmer, the girls chose Sophie. With their arms positioned toward her in the center, Sophie came out of the water, and it looked as though she was moving in slow motion. The water glistened off her body. Sophie looked straight into her mother's proud eyes and signed, I love you.